Good morning, everybody. Well, if you were in church this weekend, you heard the news that our beloved Pastor Julian Pizarro passed away. He was a great friend and pastor at our Spanish congregation for the last 2.5 years. And this has, of course, hit our staff at church very hard. It's hit me very hard. It's a shock. Many people have asked, how can we help the family? You can bring them a note and let them know that you love them. You can bring it by the church office or mail it to us. But my question today is, how do we handle this together? Well, I keep thinking about how Jesus comforts the disciples in the upper room just hours before he dies. John 16:33, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So Jesus speaks to the reality, reassurance, and response regarding trouble. First, the reality of trouble. Jesus never tells us that we're not going to have trouble. In fact, he promises we will have trouble. Faith doesn't mean trouble-free life. Faith means trusting even through the trouble. So there's the reality of the trouble. Second, Jesus gives reassurance in trouble. Later in that upper room, he says, in my Father's house are many rooms. If that were not so, I would have told you. I am going there to prepare a place for you. In John 14:2. Jesus prepared a place for Julian. I'm sure of this. I imagine Julian now with his beloved Lord Jesus, whom he loved and served for many years. And finally, Julian is seeing him with perfect clarity, enjoying his perfect peace. And after a life devoted to pastoring, right, he's hearing, well done, thou good and faithful servant. And Julian knows it was all so worth it. And Jesus is preparing a place for you and me too. And at the resurrection, we'll be reunited and restored. So there's the reality of trouble, reassurance in trouble, and third, our response to trouble. In that same upper room, Jesus says, do not let your hearts be troubled. You trust in God, trust also in me. Our response in trouble is trust. We trust the character of Jesus. We trust that he's sovereign. We trust that he's loving. We trust that he knows best. We trust in the promise of resurrection. That kind of trust can really bring peace even in the midst of deep grief, even in the midst of all of our questions. In fact, I'll close with this. Sarah Pizarro, Julian's daughter, told me that she's clinging to another verse Jesus also said in that same upper room. John 13:7, Jesus said, you don't understand now what I am doing, but someday you will. We don't understand a lot now, but we choose to trust that someday we will. You know, faith doesn't mean a trouble-free life, and it doesn't mean a question-free life. Faith means following even through the questions, believing Jesus is leading us somewhere good as we keep following.